Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I am really privileged to have two of my batchmates who have received the Padma Shri. One is, of course, Mr. Karthikeyan, and the other is Mr. Chamanlal. I had a long association with them during the training and even thereafter. I am fortunate to be working with Admiral in Transparency International, and I have a dear friend, Dr. Bhaskar. All of them have made very erudite observations on this problem. We are discussing the menace of corruption, and we have to confront with that. I have 5 propositions on the basis of which I would hurriedly deal with all of them. One is that we had never considered corruption as a problem, especially this was the viewpoint of our rulers. The second is that the seriousness on this problem is a very recent phenomenon where everybody feels concerned about it. Third, that we have to take specific and meaningful action both on the legal front and various other fronts. Fourth, the authorities are still reluctant to take action on those reformist agendas. And fifth is that civil society, all of you, have a very important role to play in confronting this menace of corruption. My first proposition, that it was never considered as a serious problem. In fact, the sufferance of the country, what we are suffering now, is due to the denial mode of our rulers in the earlier times. Some of you would have read Gunnar Birdal's The Asian Drama, the book in 3 volumes which came out in the 60s. He quotes Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru saying that we do not have to speak from rooftops that there is corruption as it creates an atmosphere of corruption. Now, it's a very strange type of logic. He was followed by Mrs. Gandhi, who said it's a universal phenomenon. Therefore, there was a sort of a refusal to see that here is a problem, although these various scams had already started taking place. You are all aware of the Jeep scandal, which was in the early 50s. And there's a long litany of scandals. I do not want to get into that. So the conclusion of the rulers was, it's okay, there's nothing wrong about it, there's nothing serious, don't worry about it. So let's not do anything about that. The result was that we had a lot of scams, defalcations, misuse of public funds. They were all attributed to systemic failure. We have not faulted, it's a system which has failed, not realizing that somebody has benefited, somebody has manipulated the system and has benefited from that. We said, no, we are not responsible, it's a systemic failure. And therefore, we started blaming. And lastly, we became cynical because none of those people who were involved in the scams had been punished. No case had been taken to a logical conclusion, and that's how we have been drifting from a denial mode to all is well, to blaming the system, to sort of a cynicism that nothing can be done. So friends, we came to a state when Rajiv Gandhi, even when he was in power, he said that only 15 paisa reach the poor people for whom the money is meant. He was the Prime Minister of the country. And lastly, his son says that only 5 paisa, not 15, 5 paisa. Now, they are all in the government. All of these 4 personalities had been in the government, had all these things of the government to bring about change, but yet this sort of helplessness, I have not been able to understand. I'm sure you would also share this with me. There had been therefore disastrous consequences of all this negation or denial of corruption, and one of these was impunity, large-scale impunity, lawlessness. People said that if no action can be taken, we will go whole hog, and they had been going whole hog in various areas. It may be crime, it may be disorder, it may be various other matters. So therefore, public power was used for the private benefit, and that's what corruption is. That's the definition of corruption. And the end result is that we in India see a great divider. We have India on the one hand, which is very vibrant, very progressive, very healthy, very beautiful, very modern. We have Bharat on the other hand, which is stagnant, pre-modern, backward, traditional, ugly, unhealthy, illiterate. We have India, which is westernized, where the rich make gifts to their spouses, as helicopters or various other things. And we have 30 million people below poverty line. We have families. That is what Bharat is. India has beautiful cities. Bharat has ugly slums. And therefore, you can see the contrast. And one of the reasons for this contrast, because both India and Bharat are existing side by side, one of the reasons of this contrast is the corruption. Not that the government had not been spending money on various activities, but the money had been leaking to some other places. And therefore, you still have starvation deaths. You have Kalahandi, you have Bolangir, you have Kokrajhar, you have Maharashtra, and so on. So therefore, friends, here is a very serious problem. Now, I come to the second proposition, and this serious problem was ignored by our rulers. I come to the second proposition, which is that the seriousness or acknowledgement of this as a problem is a recent phenomenon. Mr. Karthikeyan had mentioned a few of the negative consequences of corruption. I will only add to that it not only diminishes development, economic growth. I've read Bimal Jalan's book, The Economist, who was member of parliament. He says that if India had not been corrupt, our growth rate would have been 8% in the 80s and 90s and not 6% that it had been. So therefore, you can imagine the loss which was done to the development. It interferes with democratic processes by distorting the systems, and we have criminals in politics till recently. We still have some of them who are in very important seats of power. It militates against human rights because my rights are being denied to me because the money which is to be spent on my education, my health, my schooling, my roads is not being spent on that. I'm being denied some of my rights. It's a silent robbery. It's an irritant of a high order. I mean, if you are doing business, some of you would be, you have to deal with 18 to 20 inspectors, and you have to gag their mouths with a bundle of notes. It's a moral pollutant. It has distorted the value system, and we have role models which are entirely different. They are based on success and not on the value system. It has distorted the rule of law. Even our Prime Minister, the present Prime Minister, had said last year while he was addressing the conference of the CBI officers, I quote, he said, there is a feeling that petty cases get tackled quickly and the big fish escape punishment. This is a reality of the matter because I mentioned that none of those people who had been involved in these scams had been punished or their cases taken to logical conclusions. Corruption weakens all the institutions of governance, and therefore this is a disease which has affected our immune system with the virus of greed. Now it is at the center stage. Now, if you read the plan 10th plan or other five-year plan documents, you will see that in a lot of